Hi, my tubies, my TikTokers, and my Twitter, SheilaTruelove with her curly hair. Yes, I'm going to be wearing this for like a month. Every month, it's a new year. I'm going to change my hair every month. So I'll wear this for a month, and the next month, I'll wear something else. Anyway, I want to talk about, I was looking at a TikTok, and there's this guy on here saying how when women needed men, families were together and families were happier. Anyway, he's not going to talk about how miserable our grandparents and our great grandmothers and our great grandmothers were, how miserable they were. They had no choice but to stay. They had no other alternative. But anyway, listen in.
Women needed men, families worked out. As soon as women didn't need men, now all of a sudden families don't work out. To try to circle that back and try to pin that on men for not being nicer or not doing more or not going above and beyond to be an above average man for this average chick, you're telling men basically get out there, tap dance in a top hat and be excellent for these chicks. You know,
yeah, what you're saying is be excellent or pull up or like go above and beyond. I would view as like bare standards for being a decent human being. If your only way of getting a girl ever was like relying on the fact that she couldn't work, that means you're a weak man. That means that you just don't offer anything. You're nothing. Like you're just a body that shows up at a factory, puts something together, and then goes home and thinks that that's enough to like land you some sort of relationship. And in the past it was, but I think it's a little bit sad that our standards would revert to that and that we think it should go back to that. Like, oh God, like this woman can work a job, and now the fact that my paycheck isn't enough to win me a wife means that I'm completely and totally lost and hopeless. I think it's time to like step up and like be an actual decent person, like figure out how to be emotionally available in a relationship, figure out how to be a good partner, figure out how to make a woman date you other than the fact that like society says she's not allowed to work a job and get a paycheck.
Well, there you have it, ladies. When women needed men, families worked out. Families worked out for who? These men don't want to be husbands. They just want wives. In other words, they want slaves and they want servants. And I love how he thinks that relationships were so perfect back in those days. Women have suffered for centuries and were abused for decades. And in some countries, even now. And I was listening to Michelle Obama, and she's talking about how in some countries, women are not allowed in education. They're not allowed to even read. Would you believe that that's still going on even today in the 21st century? They're still being abused, mistreated, and disrespected, having to be committed to families they wish they could escape. And many marriages in previous generations worked out, yet our grandmothers, great-grandmothers, they were trapped. They couldn't work. They couldn't own anything. They couldn't have a passport. They couldn't vote. A lot of times women weren't allowed in education. They had to have a bunch of kids, and they were beaten. And what escape did they have? They just had to sit there and suffer. Does that sound like a happy family to you? Families back then, they never really worked out. Not really. The amount of trauma in so many of even our family history, all of this came from fathers who were very, very abusive. And women just had to suffer because they didn't have any way out. And what this dude doesn't mention is how miserable the women were back then, especially ebony women, black women. We know how rotten those black men were, making babies all over the place, walking off, leaving these women stranded. That's why the Caucasian man had to come up with the welfare system, trying to help black women out. You know, those women were miserable. That's why they wanted to work, so that they could stop being held hostage. You ask a woman born in the we need a man era, ask them how they really felt about those men. Most of them would tell you it was pure hell. These men think that providing the bare minimum, that's a woman having high standards. This is why so many women today, they are choosing and they prefer to stay single. Many of our grandmothers, they were miserable and they had no alternatives. They had to stay and accept the abuse. I know a lot of women of that generation. You know what they're telling women constantly now? They're telling these women, please don't end up like me. So what this black dude is saying is to remove a woman's freedom so that a man can be taken care of, and so that this man can be happy. He gets to live his life while women get to suffer theirs. Does that sound like a perfect, happy family? That sort sounds more to me like she's a prisoner. Like I told you, I love my freedom. I don't want nobody telling me what I can do, what I can't do. I'm grown, last time I checked. Men always want women to need them. But what happens, think about this, women, for all those who need a man, and I'm waiting on him to take care of everything. What happens when he walks out on you? Your looks and your body start to change? What happens if he dies and you're all dependent on him? And another thing about women, we've never felt that we were entitled to have a husband or a life partner just because we work a 40-hour work week. But men, they have all these entitlement issues, and women are saying, no more. Enough is enough. A lot of women are choosing to stay single because they realize they have more peace, more joy. I know for a fact I'm more successful because I have the time to focus on the things that are important to me. I know I'm more spiritually stronger too, without having some man around constantly. Women lose themselves with these dudes. So I say more power to the sisterhood. Yay!